Welcome to Reddit After Hours. This is r/TrueOffMyChest, where OP's teacher asks a single question and blows up their entire family. Our first Reddit post comes from Aggressive Region 96, titled, "I don't like my new baby at all." So I, a 30-year-old female, recently had a baby. This is my second child and my first child with my husband, who's 31. I thought that I would love this baby with all my heart, considering my husband and I have an insanely wonderful relationship. He has also taken in my first child like his own, and we have a perfect family. But truthfully, I just can't stand this baby. My firstborn is perfect in my eyes. Clever, beautiful, well behaved. I love spending time with her. She is my soulmate of babies. Even as a newborn, I absolutely adored her. This baby, though, another girl, just ain't it. Even the pregnancy was terrible. The childbirth was terrible. Everything about her is just awful. She cries nonstop. She's not as cute as my firstborn, and she spends all of her awake time just being pissed off. She's 8 weeks old, and I spend my days just waiting for my husband to get home so I can give her to him. I haven't told him this about her either because this is his baby too. I'm sure in his eyes, she's a perfect little angel. Of course, I'll never act on anything. Anytime she cries, I respond. I love on her, I talk to her, I treat her just as I would my firstborn, even when no one's around. I love on this baby the way a baby needs to be loved. Smiles, kind voices, cuddles, kisses, everything. But I'm just so over this kid. Maybe if I could spend 5 minutes of my time with her without her screaming in my face, maybe I could start to bond. Even when she's not crying, she just ignores me. I hate everything about this, and I just really don't care for this baby. And honestly, I'll take this secret to the grave with me, but I really wish my heart had room for this kid. And then OP gives an edit down below. I wasn't expecting this post to blow up like this. I will post an update in a few months though, and hopefully a positive one with a few notes though. Before jumping to poor baby and terrible mother, please do some research. This is not uncommon for a mom not to bond. I'm just the ballsy one to say it on Reddit on a throwaway account. She's not abused. She's the light of my husband's life. She is always in both of our arms. Her big sister is obsessed with her and absolutely adores her baby sister. If anything, I spent all my waking hours trying to bond with her, so this little one gets extra cuddles and extra attention. I don't hate the baby, I just don't like her. I don't wish anything bad on her. And for those asking, no, we have absolutely no support, no friends, no family, as this is a new city for us. I haven't even slept in my own bed since her birth, as my husband works 60 hours a week and he can't function with the baby waking him up. I haven't had a 4-hour long sleep since her birth, and I haven't been able to cook a meal in almost 8 weeks. I'm lucky if I even get 10 minutes to shower. Yes, I'm in therapy and have been working with a doctor for PPD. Yes, baby is seeing a doctor for possible reflux issues / milk allergy, and we are currently trying a specialized formula. And then, about 3 weeks later, we have an update from OP. About a month ago, I made a post about how much I didn't like my newborn. She was 8 weeks old at the time. Well, a few days later, I took her back to the doctor. He put her on a dairy-free formula, which smells like potato stroganoff. Ew. The changes started overnight, and the very next day, I woke up and looked in her bassinet to see an awake baby giving me the biggest, cheesiest smile in the whole world. Since then, her personality has shown through drastically. It's honestly been really fun to witness. My husband has also been an enormous help, reassuring me, letting me sleep, and helping every moment that he can. He also went back down to a normal amount of hours at work to help me more. It's still been rough, and she still doesn't sleep fully throughout the night, and I consider her being a little more of a firecracker to be more of her personality. She might never be as easy as her sister, but I wouldn't change her for the world at this point. Her sister and her are night and day totally different, but I can honestly say that I love it. I love having one angel and one fired up rebel. Having this little semen demon smiling at me really changed so much in my head. Even in the worst moments, I know now that she loves me and I just melt over her. She's got the most beautiful smile in the world, along with all her hilarious, angry faces. And to anyone else going through what I did, give yourself some grace. This phase will pass, and her turning a page development wise, plus SSRIs for PPD, have absolutely changed our relationship. I can very honestly say that I no longer have a favorite child. They are both incredible. OP, it's really good to hear that things turned around for you. I'm sure that, in the end, I'm sure you didn't actually have a favorite child or anything like that, but those newborn trenches can be rough. So, yeah, give yourself a little bit of grace. I read a lot of stories of a lot of parents that hate their newborns throughout that infant stage up until like month 3 or 4, where they finally, start sleeping and stop being fussy 24/7. It could be rough. It could be very, very stressful, and especially for, someone that just gave birth and hormones are all types of out of whack, and, that's just rough. It's super hard for a woman to go through that. So I'm glad things got better for you. I'm glad things got better for your baby, and I'm glad that, you guys are starting to bond and everything's getting better. I hope everything keeps going good for you, OP. Our next Reddit post comes from OopsieDoodle3000, titled, "An elementary school teacher broke up my family with a single question." This happened a couple of decades ago when my oldest son was in kindergarten. A little backstory. My first wife and I got married young. We had 2 children, both boys, and after only a handful of years, divorced amicably, with me having full custody in the end. Our youngest looked very much like me. Brown hair, brown eyes, stocky, and broad-shouldered. You could tell at the time that he'd be a great football player if he decided to go down that path. Our oldest son, while sharing some obvious traits with me, looked more like his mother. Blonde hair, blue eyes, with very pale and thin skin. This will be important later. After the divorce, life moved on. My best friend and roommate helped me raise the boys, and eventually I met another woman. After dating for some time, we eventually got married, and as far as I knew, she loved my boys just as much as I did. And we both agreed on discipline, which was really important. And this also consisted mostly of appropriate timeouts and talking to the boys to explain why they had gotten in trouble. Corporal punishment just wasn't a thing in our house. One day, the 2 of them got into an argument over a toy. The argument ended when the elder son tried to grab the toy out of his brother's hand, and in an effort to keep the toy for himself, the younger child accidentally elbowed his brother in the face. Suddenly, they were both screaming and crying, so I stepped in, and I sent them both to different rooms to cool off. We had a discussion about sharing, and in the end, they both went back to happily playing with each other, and at dinner, I noticed that the eldest son was developing a black eye. Because he was so fair and thin-skinned, he bruised easily, so I sat him down with an ice pack and gave him some children's Tylenol. He didn't seem to be bothered by it, though, and the evening continued mostly as normal. The next day, I sent him off to school, and about 3 hours later, 2 county sheriffs and a social worker from CPS knocked on my door. They arrested my wife, and the social worker took my youngest, and after a fairly rude lecture, decided I must be a reasonably okay enough dad to come to her office and wait while she questioned my son. It took me some time to find out the truth. Most normal people who see a 5-year-old with a black eye would say, "What happened?" or "How did you get that black eye?" But not this teacher. Without any evidence or indication of anything other than a loving, caring home life, this teacher asked my son verbatim, "Did your mommy hit you?" Thinking he was going to get in trouble again for fighting with his brother, he said yes. The teacher then reported it to CPS as this was her obligation. I explained the situation to the social worker, who replied with, "Kids don't lie about these things." I insisted, and sometime later my son recanted his story and told the truth. But the CPS worker held fast to the idea that kids don't lie about these things and insinuated that him eventually telling the truth was actually a lie that I had pressured him into. My wife ended up spending the night in jail and was released under the stipulation that she have no contact with either child. She stayed in a hotel room for a couple of weeks, but we couldn't afford to continue doing that. Her parents offered her a plane ticket to come stay with them on the other side of the country, so with the judge's permission, she quit her job and moved. My friend had moved out on his own, so with only one income and no affordable daycare, I had to make a choice. I contacted my first wife's parents, who I had kept in touch with for the boys, and asked them to take the boys for a while. Then I sold off most of what I owned, packed the rest into my truck, and drove across the country to live with her and her parents. My wife eventually took the case to trial and was found not guilty. The stress of everything put a serious strain on our relationship that never really recovered from, and we ended up divorced a few years later. That is so sad, not only because you lost your wife, who, presumably you might have stayed with forever had this not happened, but your two young sons lost a mother figure for like nothing. That's so sad. Kids definitely, when they feel pressured, do lie about these things. And I don't know. You said it was 2 decades ago. We know a lot more now than we did then, and I know it still happens to this day, but still, OP. That's just so sad. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Our next Reddit post comes from MBWill8809, titled, "I believe I may have caused the end of my friend's marriage." My buddy is a 42-year-old male, and I've known him since middle school. I also know his wife and 2 kids. They've been married for 16 years. Apparently, he's had a very low sperm count for years, and they were quite lucky to conceive twice. Regardless, this past Saturday, they're over at our house with another couple, and we're all laughing, and the conversation is light, and his wife asks us a hypothetical question. Say your husband asks you for a paternity test. Would you give him one? Well, I already know my wife's stance on this. She is strongly against accusing women of infidelity under the guise of these tests. So I beat her to it, and I said, laughingly, if I ever asked, and I never would, she would probably get me a positive result within a day or two stapled to divorce papers, and that would be that. But I would never ask because I love and trust my wife and know that there's never any doubt. I think if you're the guy asking, your marriage is already probably screwed and you're killing time until one of you finally starts getting the ball rolling on divorce. Well, guess who didn't realize that was not a fun, harmless, hypothetical, but in fact a shotgun, loaded, pointed question right at me. Yep, truly yours. Turns out my buddy's wife is 9 weeks along, and he, knowing his count is very low, just needed to, quote, make sure. Big mistake, man. She was willing to give him the confirmation, upset that he would question it, though. My comments were like gasoline on a bonfire, and from what my wife just texted me, they may be separating over this issue. I texted them both to say how sorry I was and that I didn't mean to imply anything and that every situation has nuance, is unique, etc., but I doubt it helped at all. Guys, why are you asking this question to your wives of many years anyway? Just sad all around, and now their 3rd child may be born into a 1-parent household. He could have started with the urologist to find out if his count had improved, so many options could have happened here before accusing his wife of cheating. OP, as much as I know you want to blame yourself for that, try not to. Who asked that question during a very light-hearted dinner with everyone's joking, laughing? Like, how could you ask that question and not expect somebody to give like a funny, nonsensical response, right? Like, and even if that's how you feel, like, you couldn't have known what was going on in their relationship, and they probably shouldn't have aired it out for anyone else to know either if they didn't want to get an answer like that. Because when you ask that question, you open it up for all kinds of answers, and You know, you got to be willing to accept whatever you're given if you throw that out there. So the situation sucks for your friend OP, and I think you're right. He could have started seeing a neurologist or something like that before going straight to cheating. But, you know, it is what it is. Hopefully they can figure it out and they can work past it. But if not, you know, just a sucky situation all around, OP. But don't blame yourself. That was r/TrueOffMyChest. Thank you all so much for listening. And if you like these Reddit stories, like and subscribe as we post a new Reddit video almost every single day.